There are people who, without knowing why, see their lives slowly fall apart. They make it correct, they comply with their duties, they even pray. But something seems to break inside. Things don't flow. The soul feels heavy. Success, in any shape you imagine, it looks like a mirage that always moves away. That is no coincidence. According to one of the most enigmatic saints of the 20th century, there are silent habits, almost imperceptible, which block the divine grace, and with she, all that she could flourish in your life, your relationships, your work, your inner peace. That saint was called Father Pio, a man marked with the wounds of Christ, a confessor feared by the demons, a mystic who could read souls just by looking at you eyes. He did not speak from theories. He spoke from the pain, from real spiritual combat, from visions that froze the blood of those who were listening. And when Padre Pio warned about certain behaviors, it toward with whose weight had seen its consequences in the human soul. This video is a warning, but also a revelation. Let's explore the 7 habits that, according to Padre Pio, can drag you into a life without purpose, without fruit, and without peace. And what's more disturbing is that many of these habits seem harmless, part of our daily routine, but they're like termites. They gnaw away at the spiritual structure from within until it collapses. Not just about faith, it's about spiritual survival, because the true success is not measured in numbers, titles, or applause. The true success is having the soul at peace with God, the awareness calm, and life aligned with what you were created to be. If you feel that something in you, cry out for answers. If you have tried everything but you're still stuck, and if you're willing to look inside yourself with brutal honesty, so stay, because the words you are about to hear do not come from this world. They come from a man who lived between the sky and the land. And that's still today. Keep sending messages to those who have ears to hear. It was not a man common. Since I was a child, I saw things that others did not see. I heard voices of the sky, fought against dark presences, and spoke with his guardian angel like someone speaks with a childhood friend. His name was Francesco Forgione. He was born in Pietrelcina, a little town of the southern Italy, in 1887. But the world would be known as Padre Pio, a friar cappuccino that with the passage of the years, it was transformed in one of the most venerated and feared saints of the 20th century. At 5 years old, already felt he called to consecrate oneself. At 15, she entered the convent. But her spiritual life was not a peaceful ascension, it was a constant battle. From a young age, he was tormented by demonic apparitions, entities that they hit physically, they insulted him. They tried to tear him away the soul, but it never gave in. And it was in the middle of that fight, he received a gift that would change their destiny forever, the wounds of Christ. In 1918, while prayed before him crucifix, his body was marked with the stigmata, wounds open, bleeding, which replicated the same suffered by Jesus in the cross. These wounds it would accompany for 50 years, without infection, without medical explanation, and with a suffering that he offered in silence for the salvation of souls. Padre Pio too had he gift of bilocation, could be in 2 places at the same time. People they saw in different countries at critical moments, although never there was left physically from her convent. She had also the power of reading the hearts, to know the sins that someone concealed even before being confessed. Thousands of people lined up for days to confess. With him, many walked away trembling because he was not a complacent priest. He was a spiritual warrior who faced sin firmly and who said the true although it hurt. His words were not soft, they were fire. His gaze, at times, became intense as if piercing the soul. But that fire did not burn to destroy, it burned to purify. For decades he was persecuted, silenced, even censored by sectors of the same church, but never stopped praying, stopped offering his suffering to intercede. Died in 1968, and yet its influence has not done more than grow. Today, millions of people around the world pray to Padre Pio, visit his sanctuary. They say miracles, conversions, healings inexplicable. His body, when exhumed, was found incorrupt, as if the time would not have been able to touch it. Why your words are still impacting? Because they were not yours. They were echoes of what I saw, heard, and experienced between the sky and the land. Advice that came from his intimate communion with Christ. Warnings that arose from his contact with he well and with evil. When Padre Pio spoke about habits that destroy the soul, it did because the eye had seen it act like slow poison in thousands of people. He didn't talk about theory. He talked about spiritual realities that many they ignore until it's too late. That is why today his teachings are not only current, they are urgent. And it is precisely from here that we begin to reveal the most disturbing, the daily habits that without know it, they may be sabotaging your life completely. Habit 1, spiritual self-sufficiency, trusting only yourself. Padre Pio said with strength, "The soul that relies only on yea, same, falls." We live in a world that glorifies the total independence, the self-sufficiency, the you can with everything. But in the spiritual vision, that attitude can be lethal. When you stop trusting the divine providence, you begin to load with weights that were not made for your shoulders. You make decisions out of fear, pride, or anxiety. And little by little, you go leaving God out of your history. Padre Pio saw as many souls were lost, not out of malice, but out of trusting more in his own logic than in the God's will. People who said, "I can manage on my own," and who with time, they were filled with anguish, frustration, and inner chaos. Self-sufficiency is a trap disguised as a virtue. Trusting God is not weakness. It is spiritual intelligence. It is knowing that there is paths that only He can open, battles that only He can overcome, wounds that only He can overcome, can heal. And Padre Pio reminds us, whoever he who does not pray, he who does not give up, ends up building himself a castle on sand. Rise and do start habit 2, constant murmuring, the poison of words. The murmuring destroys more souls than heresy. Father Pio warned, this habit, so common, so normalized in the society current, is one of the most dangerous. Speaking ill of the others, complain about everything, criticize with irony, repeating rumors, fueling conversations, empty, full of judgment. Every negative word spoken without charity, according to Padre Pio, has a spiritual burden. Because it not only damages others, it deforms your own soul. It connects you with energies of resentment, of pride, of darkness. Many times, the failure in life does not come from external enemies, but from the internal pollution that we generate with our own words. A woman once confessed to Padre Pio that she couldn't sleep, that her life was going badly, that she felt persecuted. They looked firmly and he said, "Stop talking badly about the others. Your tongue has invoked darkness upon yourself. The words, they create realities. They can open paths or close them. They can heal or destroy. Silence when there is none. Charity in he heart is a form of wisdom, and the gratitude, even in the adversity, is a prayer that touches the darling." Habit 3, postponing good things, the "I'll do it tomorrow" deception. Padre Pio did not tolerate lukewarmness. He said, to do he good tomorrow is to reject it today. This habit takes the form of a spiritual excuse. I'll pray, but later. I'm going to confession next week. I'll give up this sin when I feel ready. And so they pass days, weeks, years. The soul falls asleep. And worse, he begins to justify his lethargy as a strategy of faith. God understands, we say. It's not time yet. But Padre Pio, I saw with clarity, every day you postpone your conversion, you are choosing to continue the darkness. A true story tells how a man on the edge of the death was taken to the convent of San Giovanni Rotondo. He did not want to confess. He said that would do afterwards. Padre Pio, seeing him, was shaken. He approached him, and he whispered in my ear, "You will not have a after. It's now or never." That man confessed crying. He died a few hours later. Spiritual procrastination is a high-stakes game because no one knows how much time has. That is why Padre Pio insisted, do he good today, sorry today, change tomorrow. It may be too late. Habit 4. Hiding sins, incomplete confessions. Padre Pio had the gift of reading the souls. Sometimes he would interrupt the penitent in the middle of confession and say, "That's not all. You're forgetting the most important thing." But it wasn't forgetfulness. It was fear, shame, pride. And one of the more habits destructive, according to Padre Pio, is to confess sins without sincerity, without humility, without real desire for change. The soul, by doing this, is not released. It is enclosed more. Who hides his illness will never be cured. This is how he explained the confession as medicine. But medicine only works if it is taken whole. If you say half-heartedly what hurts you inside, your soul does not heal. Many, for fear of judgment, of what they will say, to the pain of facing themselves, cover up their sins or relativize. And Padre Pio warned, "Do not worry about what I think. Worry about what God already knows." Sincere confession does not humiliate, it liberates. Habit 5. Pretending to be holy. The deception of masks. There are those who go to Mass, pray out loud, they use crucifixes around their necks, they quote verses, but they live for the appearances. Padre Pio was relentless with the spiritual hypocrisy, about what it serves to appear holy to others men. Does the devil know you by your sins? This habit creates an illusion dangerous. The person believes he is fine with God because his image is fine before the others. But her soul is empty, full of pride, closed to true love. Once upon a time, a young youth asked Padre Pio to pray for him. He wore with devotion. He spoke like a faithful model. Padre Pio spoke of him, looked and said, "Your words, they smell of incense, but your soul of pride." The appearance without authenticity does not move heaven, and often it hides deep wounds. The soul that pretends hardens, it loses the spiritual sensitivity, and it falls without to give account. La Berdun. Habit 6. Neglecting prayer, the door that closes. Padre Pio, he said with cutting clarity, if you don't pray, you get lost. Period. Prayer wasn't an option for him. It was food, oxygen, light. Many, they say, "I don't have time to pray," but they spend hours on social media, on worries, on conversations empty. Lack of prayer is not a lack of time, it's a lack of priority. The soul that does not pray disconnects from the source. He begins to act on impulse, to decide from the fear, to live from the empty. A woman once, he asked Padre Pio, "Why does everything go wrong for me?" He replied with a single word, "Pray." She insisted, "What if I don't feel like it?" He looked seriously. "Pray even more. The less you want to pray, the more you need do it." Prayer is not always changes the circumstances, but your soul changes. And when the soul changes, everything at its around also begins to transform. Habit 7. Holding grudges, the invisible cage. The last habit is perhaps the quietest and most destructive, resentment. Padre Pio said that the resentment was spiritual food for him, demon, because it keeps alive in the soul. It paralyzes the grace, poisons the thoughts, deforms the vision of the world. Hurt person who holds a grudge becomes in his own prison. Outside can smile, but inside something is burning away. Forgiveness is not justifying evil, it is freeing the soul from its domain. Padre Pio, who so many times was slandered, persecuted even by people within the church, never let the resentment will take its toll heart. Offered he pain in silence. And he said, "Forgive me always, even when it seems impossible, because if you do not free the other, it will be you who ever remains chained." Duh! With these 7 habits, Padre Pio drew up a clear map of the soul that sabotages itself same, and the message is direct. There is no success true if these habits dominate your life. From here, we enter deeper ground. What does it really mean to fail from the spiritual vision? The world has an idea very clear about what fail means. Not having money, not having couple, not having success professional, not to be admired, not to stand out, not to arrive far. But for the saints, the true failure has nothing to do with that. Padre Pio did it. He understood like few others. To fail is to lose your soul trying to win the world. Many live trapped in the search for recognition, applause, visible achievements, but they end with the empty soul, the uneasy conscience, and the heart full of anxiety. The saints always they saw failure from a completely opposite perspective. Failure isn't not having, it's not being. Saint Teresa of Avila said, "God alone is enough." Saint Francis of Assisi renounced all his fortune and found the greater wealth in voluntary poverty. Saint John of the Cross was imprisoned and tortured by his own religious brothers, and wrote there his most sublime poems. And Padre Pio, he suffered humiliations, illnesses, slander, ecclesiastical surveillance, and never lost peace, because its measure of success was not external, it was internal, it was spiritual. For him, the success true is to be united to the God's will, even in half of the pain. That does not mean resignation passively. It means understanding that many times the moments more life's difficult times are also the most fertile for the soul. Padre Pio taught that the suffering offered when united to Christ becomes in redemption. What the world calls failure can be a purification. What seems like a loss can be the beginning of something eternal. There is a touching story of a woman who approached Padre Pio crying because she had lost everything. Her husband, her house, her stability. I expected consolation, but he said, "God has taken away everything that was yours to give you everything that is his." Those words that they broke up, but also the rebuilt, because he understood that his life was unending. It was truly beginning. Fail, in the eyes of God, it's not falling, it's refusing to get up. It's closing your soul, it's living without purpose. And that is the elderly warning of the saints. Do not have fear of losing the world, fear of losing your eternity. After all we've seen, one question remains in the soul. And now, what do with all this? Padre Pio didn't just warn, he also guided. Behind every firm word, there was an outstretched hand. Because the spirituality is not about accusing, but about healing. Not about point out sin, but in opening the path toward the funny. The transformation starts in heart, but it needs concrete actions. And here are the first steps. 1. Pray even if you don't feel like it. Padre Pio insisted, pray, wait, and don't worry. Prayer is the anchor of the soul. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be sincere. To pray is to say to God, I am here, even if I don't know how to start. 2. Confess with modesty. There is no release without confession. Padre Pio said that the confessional was a court of mercy, but that mercy only acts when there is true. Do not be afraid. Confess your shadows. God is not scandalized. He knows everything. He just hopes that it recognize. 3. Forgive, even if you are not asked sorry. Forgiveness isn't for the one who hurt you. It's for you. It's letting go of a chain you've been dragging around for a long time, years. Padre Pio lived in the flesh, and even thus he forgave in silence. That is the power that liberates the soul. 4. Do he good today. No, leave it for tomorrow. Don't think go big. Do something small. One word good, an act of love, and rosary at the end of the day. These gestures open cracks through which it enters the light. 5. Look for the true without fear. This video is no coincidence. If you're here, it's because your soul needed to hear. This, because awakening is already began. don't need to change your life whole in a day. You just need to give a past in the address correct, and God will do the rest. Because as Padre Pio said, the soul that abandons itself to God is never disappointed. Maybe, while as you listened to this video, you felt something stir inside you. It wasn't fault, it was wake up. The Padre Pio's words were not gentle, but they were true. And the truth doesn't come to hurt. It comes to liberate. Maybe you've noticed that some of these habits are present in your life. Maybe already you sensed them. Or maybe you just saw with clarity what you previously preferred to ignore. Whatever it is, now you know. And when one knows, one can no longer live the same. Padre Pio's call is still alive. It resonates in every soul that once reborn, in every person who, even among shadows, still yearns the light. Don't keep this truth to yourself. Share it with who knows that needs. Leave your comment below. Which of these habits spoke to your heart? And if you want more hidden teachings from the saints, I invite you to subscribe, leave your like, and follow along. This path of discovery. Because sometimes a video doesn't change your day, it changes your destiny.